This is the Louie T Network. Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome, you are in the lab room. Of course, I am your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the NFL Draft Prospects 101. Your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names of the 2015 NFL Draft. We're talking running backs, and I feel like this is a very impactful position in this year's draft. So much so that we're going to talk about more running backs. We've already knocked down 3 of the biggest names in my mind in this year's draft at the position, but there's more. This is a deep running back class, as I've stated before, and there are going to be other backs that I don't name that could have an impact, like a David Cobb of Minnesota, like a TJ Yeldon of Alabama, like a Cameron Artis-Payne of Auburn, or some other back like Buck Allen of USC. One of those guys could emerge as a back that no one's talking about that jumps up and helps the team. But to me, these 6 backs will really have a golden opportunity to impact this year's crop in ways that I don't think the other backs in this draft will be able to. I think after these first 6 backs come off the board, I think there could be a tremendous drop-off in the amount of talent. Not necessarily production, but talent as far as the NFL game is concerned. And the next back that I want to discuss is Indiana's Tevin Coleman. Let's jump into my man Tevin Coleman, because his tape was so much fun. Every year I get some joy out of watching certain tapes, and for various reasons. There's never a particular reason why I get excited. His particular tape was just exciting and fun to watch, because for the first time with any of these backs, I saw elite speed, and that's where we'll start. Jaw-dropping speed. Either you have it or you don't, okay? Either you wake up in the morning running 4.340 or you don't, okay? You can't be taught to run that fast. You can't pray to run that fast. Either the good man upstairs blesses you with that kind of talent and you get up out of your bed in the morning running that fast, or you just don't. And this young man here, I don't know what the 40 time is. I'm actually disappointed that he wasn't able to participate at the combine so I could actually put a time to what I'm seeing on tape. But the dude is a blazer. And sometimes I often argue with myself. Internal struggle is what I call it, with these guys that play in the Big Ten, because I say, are you really fast, or is it just the guys around you are really slow? And a lot of times in the Big Ten, it's the latter. The guys around you, they're big, slow guys. They, chop down trees, and, they're slow guys, okay? They eat cornbread. You get it. You understand where I'm coming from. I don't think it matters. I mean, you can put this dude in the Pac-10, or what is it, 12 now? You can put this guy in the SEC. You can put this guy in the Big 12. It doesn't matter. This dude is flying, okay? And so it was just fun to watch his tape, because I kept watching and I kept saying, all right, is this the play where he's going to get a seam and nobody's going to be able to catch him? I was like, just waiting for the next big play, because once this guy gets a seam, he's gone. Nobody's catching him. It's not even close. It's like a track meet, and you see everybody and you look behind you and nobody's even close, and this guy's just smoking the rest of the field, and it's awesome to watch. So his speed is apparent, and I don't know if there's another back in this class that, as far as game speed wise is concerned, can even touch Tevin Coleman in that department. This guy has electrifying, jaw-dropping speed, and it separates him from the rest of the backs in this draft. Gets up the field in a hurry, and that really speaks to what I just talked about with the electrifying speed. I mean, he gets up the field in a hurry, and the thing I love about it is it doesn't take much. I mean, just a little crease, just a little seam, he hits it and he's gone. And again, nobody's catching this guy from behind. There were a couple of guys that may have come close. They had angles. And you know, if you got an angle, you're supposed to make the tackle, and he would beat that angle, and they would take a dive at his legs. No, not catching Tevin Coleman, man. That guy just turned on the burners. And so he gets up the field in a hurry. No surprise there. When you're as fast as he is, you're getting up the field in a hurry. Makes sense. Acceleration and burst. And to me, this kind of all ties everything I've been talking about together. And that acceleration and burst, second to none. Again, in this draft, Gurley is another one of those guys where he turns it up and he hits another gear when he gets into the open field. And I talked about Gurley. You see the dreads flopping and that head bobbing back and forth. That's when you know Todd Gurley the second is turning up the jets. Well, the same thing with Tevin Coleman, man. Once he gets going, and it doesn't take much. This is one of those guys, 0 to 60 like that. I mean, 2-3 steps, max speed. You can't get him. The acceleration and the burst is dynamic, and it changes ball games. And he played on a pretty bad Indiana football team, and yet teams knew they had to stop Tevin Coleman, and they still could not do it. That's what speed can do for you. I mean, you see it, but you still can't stop it. And that was Tevin Coleman in a nutshell at Indiana. Dynamic in space, another pro for this guy. And it makes sense when you're as fast as he is, you get out in space, it's fun to watch. The thing I love about him is you get and you gotta create ways for this kind of speed. You want it out in space. You don't want it cluttered up in the middle of the field. You don't want a whole bunch of bodies around. So if you can open up a lane for him in the run game, if you can throw him a screen, get him outside, if you can throw him a middle screen, you can throw him a hitch, spread him out wide, throw him a hitch, get some blockers out in front of him. Any way you can to get this guy into space, he is a threat to take it the distance every single time he touches the football. And so I don't have to tell you anymore about how electrifying his speed is, and so you can understand why this guy is dynamic out in space. He's a physical runner though. This is another pro for him, and it's surprising because I talk about the speed, and a lot of times when you talk about guys with this kind of speed, you don't have physicality that goes with that speed. You don't have speed with physicality to match. But Tevin Coleman isn't afraid. If he needs to stick his head down and get 5 yards on a carry, if he needs to just cut his losses, put his shoulder pad down and get 2 yards and go back to the huddle, he can. If he needs to finish off a run with some veracity, if it's 3rd and 4 and it's 2 defenders there and he's got 3 yards and he needs that 1 last yard, he'll stick his head down, he'll drop that pad level, and he will get the first down. He's a physical runner. There were a couple of times where he's fighting for extra yardage to get into the end zone. I'm like, there's no way he's getting in the end zone here. 2 yards away, and he's dragging defenders. He lowers the pad level, lowers the boom, runs over a defender, drags another guy into the end zone. It was sheer determination on his part, and that's not uncommon for him. That's something that he does with regularity. He's a guy that runs extremely hard. Despite being a scat back, a fast guy, he runs extremely hard, and I like that physical nature to his game because it gives it a little bit of balance, because we'll talk about some of the things he needs to improve upon, but his physicality is not one of them. That is not questioned with Tevin Coleman. To me, ideal fit in a ZBS. If this guy can find a way in a zone run blocking scheme, he is your traditional one cut and go running back. He is the type of guy that you get going down the line, you stretch hand off the football to him, he runs down the line, presses it, and the minute that hole opens up, that seam splits, he sticks his foot in the ground, gets up the field, and that guy can go much faster than slow. And so, to me, if he can find his way to a Gary Kubiak type offense where you know what you're getting with the zone run blocking scheme, if he can find his way to say like a Houston, somewhere like that where you know zone run blocking scheme principles are going to be taught heavily, this guy could excel at the next level in the National Football League. Only time will tell where he ends up, but this guy has a lot of speed to burn. And I think if put in the right system, this is not a power back. He does not need to be in a power run scheme. He needs to be in some type of zone run blocking scheme where he can allow his talents to be put on display. And if he can find his way to the right system, this guy could be electric at the next level. Let's get to his cons. The first thing that frustrates me with him, with all the speed that he has, there is no wiggle. He doesn't make anyone miss. There's no wiggle, man. There's no getting past defenders with a little bit of a, oh! There's no extra nastiness. There's just straight line speed. If you got a chance to get your hands on him, you're going to get this guy down. He reminds me of Darren McFadden in that sense. McFadden has no different gear. It's just fast and then very fast. And if he has to downshift at all to try to make you miss, you got it. And same thing with Tevin Coleman. There's no spin moves. There's no hop step. There's no jump cut. There's no stutter. No, none of that. None of this extra stuff. It's just, hey man, catch me if you can. And so there's not a lot of broken tackles. Not a lot of yards after contact. He will stick his shoulder down and get 2 yards on a forward lean, but there's no, a guy hits him at 7 yards, he bounces off that tackle and keeps his feet and spins off of another guy and is able to jump cut and cut it back against the grain and pick up another 27 yards on the play. It's not what's happening. He's getting up the field north and south. He's not wasting a lot of motion. But he's also not going to make a lot of guys miss out in open space. It's just a foot race, one that he generally wins time after time after time. Not great in pass pro. He's just one of those guys that you just look and you say, you don't move me in the passing game. Let's just lump these last two cons together. He's not great at pass pro, and he didn't show the ability to be a natural pass catcher. I didn't feel like I could dump it down to him on a regular basis and feel like he's going to catch it. Hey, I just told you he's not making anybody miss, so why would I want to dump it down to him in the flats on, and I know the saying, you can't go broke making a profit. If I dump it down to him and he picks up 3 yards, you got positive yards, right? That's fine, but on 3rd and 7, outlet guy in the flats, I throw it to him. He's not getting 7 yards unless he's got the angle and can beat a guy to the corner and get 8 yards. If you just throw it to him and there's a defender waiting on him, he's not getting the first down. And so that doesn't help you. He didn't show the ability to run some routes, catch the football out of the backfield cleanly, so wasn't really impressed with his pass catching skills. And like I said, not the greatest blocker in the world. There were times where he just looked lost. He didn't know who to block. He was just standing there like, guys blitzing out. I'm pretty sure he saw the guy coming up the B gap, and yet he's like, I'm like, dude, the guy's over here. What are you doing? Why are you looking over here? Your responsibility is over here. And he wouldn't touch anybody, or he would come up and he wouldn't be physical, and a guy would just maul him and move him out of the way and get to the quarterback. So wasn't impressed with his pass blocking, wasn't impressed with his pass catching. So basically what I'm telling you is, this guy to me is a 2-down back. He's not a 3-down specialist. He's not a guy that you can use as a complete back. To me, he's one of these guys that, you know how you go in the store and you look for some pancake mix. I don't know about you, I want the complete pancake mix. The one where you just add water, okay? Tevin Coleman is the one you pick up and you gotta add oil, you gotta add eggs, you gotta add milk. I don't want to do all of that extra stuff, man. Just give me the complete box. I just want to add water. That's not Tevin Coleman, but if you got the right system, you already got the eggs, you already got the milk and the oil, you add Tevin Coleman to the mix and this dude is going to make some noise. I like this kid a lot. If he lands in the right spot, he could be a dangerous threat. Like Chris Johnson, burst onto the scene with a lot of speed and really do some things and shake up the NFL landscape. But again, all about fits for Tevin Coleman. That's going to do it for him and his NFL Draft Prospects 101 breakdown. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. Come back and join me as we continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. I got more backs to come. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at In the Lab Room, or you can like the Facebook page at In the Lab Room. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and at In the Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.